Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Block and Key by Inside Up Games.
Block and Key is an abstract game in which you are excavating a historical dig site, and you're unearthing some odd shapes that you are trying to build together to create a 3D picture, or 2D picture, not 3D, in order to match different cards, objective cards, so that you can get points. Makes a whole lot more sense when I show it to you down below on the table, so let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, here's Block and Key from Inside Up Games. Let me show you guys how this polyomino 3D building game works, and you are going to be trying to complete different orders in this game as well. Now, what I am showing you here, this is the box sleeve, and yes, it does have some gold foiling on it, which is really nice, but I'm showing you the box sleeve because the box itself is actually the playing surface for this game. And this is a two-level board here, and I'm going to raise the camera up a bit so that you can see how that works. Now, I'm not going to explain the rules to you with it in this version. I'm going to deconstruct it here, but I did want you to see how this board is supposed to look whenever you're playing the game. And so here we are now. I've got the board deconstructed. We've got our lower level over here and our upper level right here. And for this, you are going to have these chunky, and this is not wooden, it's not plastic, it's kind of like porcelain a bit, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what this is made of. But anyhow, you've got these Tetris-like pieces that are going to be over here in this market, and your playing surface over here with the starting cube with the 4 different colors. You've got gray, a brownish color, green, white, and then you have your 2 colors that indicate to you the top and bottom of this starting cube. So anyhow, it'll start right here in this center space, depending on the number of players you have in the game. And as well, it will these icons right here will show you the different sides of the board that you should sit, depending on the number of players you have in the game. The rules will explain that to you better than I can. Now, for this game, what is going to happen on your turn? You're going to choose one of 2 possibilities for your turn. You can take any row or column of pieces for your action, or you can place 1 block out on the surface, and if you are able to fulfill one of your different cards, then you can score that card as well. So the first thing is that you could take some blocks on your turn, and you can take any 1 row or any 1 column. So I might take this top row right here, and I would take these 3 pieces, and they would come into my side, my player side here, and you can have at maximum 7 pieces. And then you would refill the market, drawing from this nice bag here, and you would refill starting in the lowest spot. So this is a 1 here, and I would put a piece there, piece on 2, and lastly a piece on 3. Or instead, I could have taken 1 column. So maybe I take this center column here, and I take those pieces, put them on my side, and again, I refill the market starting at the lowest spot, 2, and then 5, and 8. Now, that's something I could do on my turn, or I could place a piece out on the playing field. Now, there are a few rules about how you're allowed to place pieces out on the playing field. You are not allowed to place pieces completely adjacent to another piece, like so, sharing 1 flat edge, unless the piece that you're placing, if this is the piece that I'm placing, is taller than the piece that is currently out there that you are going to be putting a flat edge to. So in this case, that would be legal because this piece is taller than that piece. However, this would not be legal because they're the same height. Now, if instead I wanted to place catty corner, I can. You can place catty corner to pieces that are already out on the board. Now, you are not allowed to just place something that is floating out where there is nothing else. You do have to at least place catty corner to something else, or completely touching a flat edge with another piece. Now, you are not allowed to have something that is overhanging, so you cannot do this. However, you can have bridges. And by bridges, what that means is you are allowed to have pieces that do act as a bridge, such as something along these lines. Even though this is overhanging a gap here, it is fully supported on both ends, and so that is legal. However, this would not be legal. You could not do something like that. You're going to build structures out here one piece at a time, and hopefully you would fulfill different objective cards. Now, you do start the game with some easy objective cards that are worth 1 point, and these are the easiest ones to complete. And what you are trying to do is you're trying to make this appear from your vantage point of the board. And so my vantage point of the board is looking at it from this angle. And I need to look at it in such a way, now I'm going to tilt this so that it shows you a 2D version of what you're looking at here. And so I need to try to make the image on my card show up from this vantage point, from this 2D vantage point. And so, for instance, if I were trying to fulfill this particular card here, I could do so by placing this piece on top of that piece, because I've got 2 brown pieces on top of 2 white pieces. And when I look at it from my vantage point, that is what that looks like there. And so I could play this card after having played a piece, then I would get 1 point. Now, I do have to play a piece on my turn that does help me to score my card. So in other words, if an opponent played this piece on their turn, playing it like so, I could not at my turn say, oh, I've got this now because you played that piece. I have to be the person who plays the piece that allows me to score the card. There are other cards for you to gain. Once you score a card, you're able to draw a new card. There's a whole deck here of medium difficulty cards, and these are going to be harder to score than the easier cards, but they will give you 2 points instead of just 1 point. And then there are cards that are even more difficult. The moon cards are going to give you 4 points, and they're going to be a lot harder to score because they're generally going to take 3 different types of pieces to build, or they're just going to be in awkward shapes that are hard to build. Anyhow, whenever you score a card, you get to score it, and the game is going to end once so many cards have been scored. Whoever has the most points is going to be the winner, and you are also going to get, I almost forgot this, bonus points. At the beginning of the game, you'll have one of these dealt to you, and if your particular color is showing, so for instance, I don't have any green showing at me, but if I had this piece right here, and I was able to see these pieces from my vantage point, they're not going to be covered up by something else, for instance, then I will gain 1 point for every one that shows. This particular green color would give me 4 in this case, but if this blocked that, then I would only get 1. And that's how this card works. Anyhow, add up all your points. Whoever has the most is going to be the winner. And that's how you play Block and Key. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Block and Key from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, first impressions, what'd you think of this?
I really liked the components. I liked the blocks, I guess.
Yeah.
And you know, just it's a good weight. It's a really good
They're
quality.
heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And getting to set that up, it's pretty basic as far as what you have out. It's
right.
Block, mat, and cards, and that's it.
Well, and it has the dual layer here. It has that 3D element to it, which we've seen in a couple of other games, and it's starting to become a more popular idea.
It's a 3D polyomino game.
Yes.
And that's where we kind of excel in.
So when I hear that anyway, 3D polyomino Tetris-like experience with that. Oh, you've got me. I'm in on that. And that's when I first heard about Block and Key. That was my first initial impression of it. Seeing it, the component quality, the box. I mean, you can see it's shiny here. Everything about this game speaks. It really speaks to me. It really pulls me in. When you get into the gameplay experience, what was it like for you?
It was good. I think being focused on the fact that it's 2D was difficult.
Yes.
So you really have to train your mind, train your eyes to figure out exactly what you're looking at. And this is going to go in my cons, so we can go ahead and get into pros and cons. For me specifically, I'm dyslexic. And so when I look at the card and that's what I'm supposed to see in a 2D version of my 3D model, my brain has a really hard time doing that.
I was doing this throughout the entire game, so much so that I think the back of my neck was starting to hurt a little bit because I wanted to see exactly what it looks like And so I can match it up with my card.
Yeah, and you're having to hold your card to make sure, like, is that the right height? Am I seeing, you know, you're supposed to have 2 here and 3 above it. Well, those 3 above it could be way behind it.
Yeah.
So are you looking, is your depth correct?
Right. Yeah.
So I think that, and that's, you know, it's fun too, but it can be challenging, especially for someone who has difficulty seeing that type of thing.
Now, for me, what I'll say as far as my gameplay experience with this game, I already mentioned I was really drawn to it and had high expectations for it. And I got to admit, as I got into the gameplay and it was a simple drafting, placing mechanic on your turn, I kind of thought, is that it? Is that all there is to this game? And I felt as though it might be a little bit of a letdown because there's not a whole lot of choices that you're making. Either I choose to draft or I choose to place a block and hopefully score something. And that's really it. But then as the game progressed and I started seeing how this object was being built and how when other players play pieces, it can affect my perception of it. And when I'm playing a piece, it not only affects my perception, but everybody else's as well. I really started to feel like this game was ramping up in awe. Because as the object unfolded, it opened up different possibilities for my scoring cards. And I realized this one card that might have given a ton of points that I just wrote off because I thought, well, that's never going to happen. How can I ever get that to happen? Oh, now it could happen because of what everybody else has been doing. That's a really cool experience. And I love that ability of being able to discover how I can pull something off that I once thought was impossible to do. So it's a little bit of an emotional experience of highs and lows with this game, and that, you know, I don't feel like I'm doing a whole lot, but I'm still, by the end of it all, I really kind of feel like, wow, that really evolved into something pretty cool. Yeah. So let's get to pros and cons for this particular game. What does stick out to you in a good way?
I mean, I think, like I said, the layout is really cool. The components are really nice. We have a couple of games that have that 2D or that 2-layer element. And it's just, it's different. It's not your typical board game.
Yeah.
And it's fun to try to build something. I enjoy using my hands and trying to build something and trying to create something. And polyominoes are something that most people are familiar, or we're very familiar with. And Tetris is something we're familiar with. It's just looking at it in a different way.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's fairly familiar.
We mentioned earlier that the component quality is pretty top notch here with the weighted blocks, that they are not just these little dinky or even wooden
tiles.
They're heavy. Yeah. And that's a plus with this, especially since you are building a contraption that is going to be the crux of the game. I mean, that's the whole big point of the game is this object that you're building. So that component needs to be top notch, and it is. So what other positives stick out to you?
I think the game, you can really change the difficulty of the game if you're playing with 2 or 3 people based on where those people are sitting. Because me and Lance played catty corner to each other, not across from each other. And I think if you're playing with 2 people and you're across from each other, then...
Well, the rules speak specifically to that. Yeah, you do have to sit catty corner. But what Sam is talking about, it's important that they thought of that concept.
Because it would really change.
If you are sitting across from each other, you're getting almost the exact same vantage point. It's just I'm seeing it from this end and you're seeing it from that end. But it's important that you do sit exactly how the rule book tells you to sit.
And so that you can't move. You're constantly looking at the same direction the whole time.
And to that, it's important also that there's not... I mean, there is some of that. Some of what another player does affect me because it messes with my vantage point. But because you are sitting and you're not moving around the table and you do have that one vantage point, I'm primarily going to be playing pieces that affect my vantage point. So can you play with 3 people? Or is it just... Yes. You can play 2, 3, and 4 players. I think 4 is the most. You can play 1 player too.
I would think if you play with 3 people, then 2 people are going to be across from each other. 1 person's not. That person would be...
But the person that's not, that is sitting catty corner, they're looking at a perspective that's going to affect both players because they're playing pieces on left and right. It probably doesn't make sense me talking about it. You have to see it on the table.
I'm just thinking, because we've obviously only played it with 2 people. Just thinking about how that would be.
Well, I played it with 3 players, and I can say that I think it's balanced well. I don't think there's an advantage or disadvantage there. I think like I was saying, I think they understood that that needed to be a rule, and it needed to be something said about the design of this game, that you do need to sit in specific spots to be able to play it fairly. So what doesn't work for you so well in this game?
I felt like I very quickly, you kind of start in the middle a little bit. You start wherever you want, don't you?
Well, no, the block has to start in the middle, but you choose the orientation of the block.
But I felt very quickly in the game that I was coming closer to the edge, and then I really lost a lot of space, because while you can continue off to the side, you've limited yourself.
Okay.
And so I remember thinking that, like, very early on, I came very close because I'm just trying to continue looking at exactly what's on my card, but not really thinking up or over, just thinking about what's in front of me. So I came very close to the edge, and there's not much you can do about that. You just have to pick cards that are more elevated or really try to add on to the sides.
So I think maybe what you're talking about there is that it can be a bit of a mind exercise in figuring out how to make these cards work in a way other than just
putting a block in front of
I'm just going to put a block right here because that works easily. And using the whole environment to your advantage is where the game really lies, and I think that's where you get a lot of your points.
Maybe a non-gamer and a gamer are going to play differently.
Okay.
I was just trying to see exactly what's on the card and build that versus build on top of what was already there.
Yeah. Now, I will say I found that experience to be the best thing about this particular game. And so for me, that's a big pro, is being able to use what's already out there and use it and try to make my scoring card work based off of what everybody's already done. I thought that was fantastic about this game. I do think that for me, some of the cards aren't as... obviously the cards come in degrees of difficulty. I think there are some that are much more difficult than others. And I think there are some that are so easy they shouldn't even give you points.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a minor quib that I have with it. And I do think that I do like that they give you some really easy ones to start off with, and from that point forward, you really have to go from medium or hard. It's not like I can just keep going for the easy ones and get points every single turn. I do enjoy that aspect of it. About the only other con that I might have with this game is that the rules for being able to place the blocks on the playing field are a little fiddly, in my opinion. You can't place something that's touching another piece if it's not taller than that piece.
Yeah, I had a hard time with that.
That can be...
It was very limiting.
It slows the game down a little bit, because I had it happen in every game, multiple times even, where somebody would do something and I'd have to say, well, sorry, you can't really do that. Why not? That's
extremely frustrating for a non-gamer too, when they're learning to play a game. And I just feel like, I don't know, depending on how you want to play as the gamer...
Do you want to be a stickler?
Yeah. If you want to be a stickler, or if you just kind of want to let it go so that everybody enjoys it instead of constantly like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And I think I felt a little frustrated the game that we played.
All right, so let's get into our scores for Block and Key. So scale of 1 to 10, love to hate. I'm going to go first on this particular game, if that's all right. I really enjoyed this overall experience. As I mentioned, it kind of led me on an emotional bit of high and low roller coaster with this game. I think component quality is great, fantastic. The end result is really cool. I do wish maybe there was a little bit more of what I'm doing each turn, but as it is, I think it's a great low entry point into gaming, and I think this can be played with lots of different types of people. I think, it doesn't matter if you're a gamer or non-gamer too much. I think this is going to be good for just about everybody. For me, I'm going to give this game a 7.5.
I think I'm definitely lower, but I think there's room to grow the more you play. This is a game where I definitely want to play it again, because I really do like polyominoes, and just get better at it, and then I will enjoy it more. So I'm a little bit lower. I'd give it a 6.9.
Okay. Very fair. Well, that's our thoughts and scores on Block and Key. It is from Inside Up Games. Leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about this one.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
We are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.